there's no tomorrow. I wanna race to the...
Can You See How I See would not be possible without the support of our executive producer, Mr. Tom Rao, whose lifestyle and wisdom inspires us all. So today on Can You See How I See, we're furthering that conversation of those on the front lines of, and this is where we feature somebody in our community, in the world, that is especially in relation to some aspect of whether it's neuroscience or aging or cardiovascular or mental health. And in this case, we have a very dear friend of mine from Chuck Gaidica, who is, many people know in the state of Michigan, was probably one of the most beloved meteorologists for 20, 30 years, if not more. But then he retired, and so he became still very active, still very relevant, and still very involved in all kinds of things. And so George and I are excited to sit and talk with Mr. Chuck Gaidica about just life and how you navigate into the next phase of life. And so tell us a little bit about yourself first, Chuck.
Well, it's good to be with you. Yeah,
it's great to be with you. It's an honor to be with you. Humbling to be with you, actually.
Well, I feel the same way. And, I'm going to keep retiring until I get it right. I don't relate to the word, and I know I'm not the only one. Nothing I'm going to share today is probably brand new information to some. So I had a wonderful career in television, news, and radio, most of it in Detroit. I spent several years in 3 other markets before I got to Detroit. And then I got on radio right away when I got to Detroit. And so both of those mediums different. I think radio made me a better television broadcaster, interestingly enough. And I would say that because I would usually be home, not in the same studio. So if we were doing this today and I were home, I would be listening, but I couldn't see you. So I didn't know what was coming. I couldn't see the physical triggers of like, here comes a joke, get ready, which we all kind of do, even if it's subconsciously. And so as I've listened to what you've been discussing and sitting here next to George, I talk about humbled, but I kind of live that in a very different, strange way where I think because I never saw what's coming, I had to be able to react quickly, and it made me a better broadcaster to present visual information. So it was really interesting. So I retired from full-time television news. I don't even believe it. It'll be 11 years this coming August. And then I went back for a couple of years for a morning show. And in that time, I had gone back for a master's degree in ministry and leadership at age 50. Took me 4 years part-time. I was still working. I lived and studied in the Holy Land for a month in Israel and Jordan. And then I came back and I thought God was leading me into a different season. I started asking myself questions, even though I had a great career. Is this all there is? And I didn't mean to demean my career. I was kind of flying at a level where I was doing great. Family life was wonderful. But I just thought, is this what I'm supposed to do for the next however many years God gives me? And I kept getting the answer no. And I thought, well, okay, maybe I'm supposed to help people, and in my early 40s, I read a book called Halftime, Moving Your Life from Success to Significance. And it was a very impactful book for me because it was talking about you don't have to retire, you don't have to be super wealthy, but what are you going to do with the rest or second half of your life? Now, admittedly, I knew then, not at age 42 maybe, but later in my 50s, I don't have another half. Right now, intellectually, you know it, although it sounds good. So I think of life in quarters, the first, second, third, and fourth quarter, kind of a sports analogy. And for many of us, we're entering this fourth quarter, and now the question is, well, what do you do with it?
Do you find that finding a purpose, having a purpose where you actually impact others' lives is enriching?
I find great joy in, as Bob Buford, the author of that book, said, growing fruit on other people's trees.
I like that.
I relish... I'm here with you in your podcast with George. I want you guys to be a super success. I don't walk away saying, man, I wish I did that and I could do it better, or I could do, I don't have the envy thing. I just want to see you be super successful. And if I can even be helpful, that makes me happy. It's wonderful. So I would think for a lot of us, finding purpose and passion in the second half of life is a difficult thing often. I've pro bono coached men. I don't normally hang out with women I don't know, but I went through an organization called Halftime, which is related to the book. They started an institute in Dallas, and I got a 3-day intensive and then a year of monthly coaching, trying to know more of thyself. I listened to your last podcast, and you were talking about, would you want to know about a test that shows that genetically you have the markers, for Alzheimer's or dementia? I really do want to know thyself better. And so I've taken StrengthsFinders tests in in the Christian world. What are your charisms, or how are you gifted? To try to know that maybe this is where I should go if I'm really looking to be impactful. And so I think for many of us, we don't know ourselves. We have a great career maybe, and maybe not such a great career, and then all of a sudden either you retire or somebody retired you. We're seeing that happen in our world right now in America. And you're whatever age, pick an age, 55, 65, 95, doesn't matter. And you're asking, what's my why? Like, I used to run a corporation and people got me coffee and, I had to sign checks for millions of dollars, and now I'm just Chuck's neighbor walking my dog. And that identity thing changes. And I think I've seen a lot of people, and I've struggled with it at times. You're on TV for almost 40 years and then you're not. I don't live to be recognized, but it changes for all of us. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah, relevance is a funny thing.
You've already taught me one really, really crucial thing about where I'm reaching my point in life right now, is that I may be going into the fourth quarter. And so what I really should be looking for is a tie score so we could go into overtime.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's so. If you look at the statistics, whenever you Google anything, you think you've got a major disease, right? But if you look at this idea of a fourth quarter and you want to get past the end zone and you want to overtime, well, you look at the statistics. If I'm an average white guy, which I probably am, it's my early to mid 80s. That's where my dad was. That's where my mom was. She passed away from Alzheimer's. I've got less than 20 Christmas presents to go. And when I do that, it's not a morbid thing for me. For some, it would be. But when I think about it, it gives me what you were talking about. What is my why? Why do I want to be healthy? Why do I want to find purpose to help other people?
How do you want to be remembered?
And part of it's legacy, right? You've dealt with that with a lot of different people. But I look at those pictures of my wife and my kids and my grandkids, and I think, that's my why. That's a pretty good answer to get to for a lot of us.
And we'll be right back. If you're interested in exploring some of our award-winning documentary films from Visuals Entertainment Productions, go to v-prod.com. Just click on Filmography and you can watch a variety of the films that we've produced over the years. Let's get back to our discussion.
Coaching is different than what I'm doing right now. What I'm doing is expounding. Coaching is more listening. It's hearing you say what you think is important.
So, you had never met George before.
I had not. No, I saw him on film, but no.
Yeah, so I invited Chuck in here to meet George because I wanted to meet George, and then Chuck then shared with us, and he hadn't shared this with George yet, but he's going to do it right now, that Chuck used to take a woodworking class, and he's a little bit astonished or fascinated by George.
I'm in awe. I mean, I see this. I don't know if this is a cup with a lid, right? And I remember in wood shop in high school, 2 years of wood shop and then drafting, and it was a technical high school. But I think of having a block of wood, you've got to saw it into a certain size. You have to put it on a lathe, which is spinning rapidly. You've got to have a tool to go back and forth to take the edges off the block, and then it turns into this. I mean, I have enough to close my eyes and go, well, it needs some sandpaper. But I mean, to do that, I'm in awe of how you would safely navigate that world. It just blows my mind.
Before the camera started rolling, we were talking a little bit about, how things work. And it's down to perception lots of times, We were talking about a table saw, and I was explaining the fact that on a table saw, the only thing that really moves on a table saw is you. The blade is spinning, that is true, but the blade is purely static. That blade cannot go anywhere. The only thing that moves is you. And as long as you, as the person pushing the stuff across the saw, understand the path that the wood has as it relates to the blade and what the wood has as it relates to your hands. As long as your hands are not in the same path as where the blade's going to cut, you don't have a problem. But that's not really a visual thing at all. That's a spatial thing. That's a knowledge thing. That's you could take someone who's never seen or experienced a table saw before in their life, and they could walk up there and push something through and cut their fingers off, and that wouldn't be astonishing at all, but because they didn't understand the process or what it does. But you give a person a couple hours of training or a couple hours of knowledge, and all of a sudden that piece of equipment, your eyeballs really truly have nothing to do with it whatsoever. It's your physical relationship to it and where you are and where the path is that your hands follow and those kinds of things.
There's something else that I see in this that it maybe isn't overt to a lot of people. Do you find great joy in what you do when you're woodworking?
I do like what I do.
And I think people who find not happiness is a fleeting, I can be happy I came to see you today, not that I won't still be happy when I leave, but or you get a new car, you're like, I'm happy. Yeah. Joy seems to be something that is extended. And when I see something like this, I think of love, I think of joy, I think of the passion. And how healthful is that to find something? For me, it's gardening, where I may be out there 2 or 3 hours, and my wife Susan, I'm covered in bark mulch dust, and I'm dirty, and my fingernails are covered, and she'll yell out, you got to get dressed, we got to go meet the kids for dinner. But time has just gone by, and I wonder if you experience the same thing with what you do.
Yeah, I would say that the thing that longevity of what I do somehow is important. I love going back to the places where I've made things and they're still there. I mean that just seems to do some. I was in Traverse City with Keith one time working on Mary's Journey stuff. And we went by the old courthouse in Traverse City, and Keith shot a couple pictures of the entry doors to the courthouse, because when they restored the courthouse, I built the new entry doors that somehow
and they're still there.
And they were still there.
Yeah.
And then I walked down the street in Traverse City, and there's still storefronts that I did that still exist. They're there every day, and that's really cool. And so I like there's some satisfaction in making something that has the ability to outlast you.
Now that's part of a legacy, right? Thinking about not maybe in an egocentric way, but what are you going to do how have you touched the world? I mean, look at all the films you've done and how much both of you have touched the world.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that dash.
Yeah.
That dash on the tombstone is what really matters. The impact you have on people's lives and how they gain some better perspective of who they are because of your interaction or your love or your caring in what they remember of you is all that's really important in life. And at the end of the day, I was thinking about this the other day, and I was realizing we don't really own anything, do we?
No.
I mean, you stop and think about 100 years from now, 150 years from now, we're in our house. We won't be in our house. There'll be somebody else in the house or somebody else in that land. We don't really own anything.
That includes your money.
Yeah,
everything you're covetous of right now.
Right, everything. That's a very good point. It's everything you're covetous of. You really don't own it. We think we do as human beings. We've acquired this. We've got to keep this here. I need this. But at the end of the day, we really don't own it. It's not ours. You come in this world and naked. You leave this world naked. And I think that Dr. Kim Eagle, who I filmed with for about the men's film about cardiology and stuff, but he made a really profound point about aging. He said you got to keep your world as big as you can, as long as you can, because at the end of the day, we all end up in one place, a bed and four walls.
Yeah.
How big you keep your world and how relevant you are will help dictate a stronger aging process. And I think that sometimes we, ego or whatever gets in the way, we think we're all this and all that. And boy, like that, you get a diagnosis or comorbidities. And now all of a sudden you're on a whole different trajectory.
Especially as we age, right? We tend to find, I'm hearing from my old high school in Chicago about a reunion next year. And it's kind of sad to think what we all go through on our own cell phones. You know, somebody passes away and you have to remove them from your phone.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing names of old buddies that, God, I got to take his name off. I know about that one and take that name off. And, you know, it's it hits you. And not in a negative way, but it does make me think about my being right now.
And we also have the responsibility to appreciate where other people think they are in the scheme of retirement. And that, you know, Jack Kevorkian got, you know, a really bad rap from a lot of different people because he believed that people truly should have the ability for them to be able to look where they are in their life and their world and decide that they've had enough of it. You know, they've contributed what they wanted, and now they want to move on. And I you know, when you get older, you think about those kinds of things in different ways. And so for me to condemn somebody else because or belittle them because they've told me that, you know, they think they've reached the end of their life, and it's them that have to make that decision, though. It isn't. I don't have the right to. I mean, as much as whatever morals, you know, thought you may have about it, or religious thoughts you think you have about it, or whatever. I mean, those kinds of things should be left to that person to decide. You know, some people, regardless of what a wonderful life that they may have had, you know, they worked for, you know, Chrysler for, you know, 50 years, and then after that they ran a bed and breakfast, and now they're in their 80s and they have all kinds of ailments, and the people who were near and dear to them have now passed away, you know. But, you know, if they decide that they want to end, you know, their life, and that I think they should have the right to do that.
So we would have different perspectives on that, because I would come at it from a Christian standpoint.
Yeah.
So we all have these different ideas, and yet what I have seen in my life is not maybe that story of I worked for Chrysler 50 years, then I had a B&B, and my life continued. I have met many people who, 60-ish, let's pick a kind of an average, who they really have retired in their minds, they're still working, or they've literally retired from the work life that they always had.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to find this path. What do I do? And what if God gives you another 30 years? How much golf can you play?
Yeah.
And, you know, this passion, again, back to passion, finding purpose, it's sometimes difficult. I've got many purposes. Sometimes I pray about it. God, just give me the one thing. Break my heart for one thing. My heart breaks for a lot of things. And so sometimes that's a frustrating thing. But I think finding purpose, where I've heard the phrase, if you can do something and time disappears, and you find joy in it, that is a purpose. And I'll give you a really quick, good story. Susan and I were on a cruise, music cruise. Christopher Cross, who sings Sailing and Arthur's Theme and all that,
Yep.
he's on the ship. Well, we get a chance to see him speak in a small room during the day with an acoustic guitar before he goes on the big stage on the ship that night to play Sailing. Now, we know Sailing is everybody's song, but Susan and I, it's our song. So we go see him, you know, with the acoustic guitar with 200 people in a room, and he said, any questions? And someone said, how did you come up with the song Sailing? He said, you know, tonight I'm going to perform it with a band, and you're going to see giant images of sailboats. He said, everybody thinks the song is about sailing. Sailboats. He said, it has nothing to do with boats, even though you'll see them tonight because it kind of makes it pretty. He said, what it's actually about is I had a friend, a female friend who's an artist, and I went over to her art gallery, and she was painting on a giant canvas. And he said, I'm just standing there watching in awe. Well, like you, watching someone create this woodwork.
Yeah.
And he said, I just asked her, how do you do that?
Yeah.
And she looked at him, she said, I can't explain it. I just sail away. She just goes somewhere else, and she comes out of it, and she's found great joy. And I think that's a good goal for all of us. Find something you can do, serving others, painting, woodworking, podcasting. What is it where time just goes away and you have found purpose and passion, you know?
And we'll be right back. Who doesn't love pickled veggies? Now, thanks to the Great Lake Pickling Company, you can so easily create a wide variety of pickled vegetables in a week in your fridge with this very cool pickling pouch. Just drop in almost any type of vegetables, and in a week, you have some really great homemade, delicious, crunchy pickled vegetables. Just go to greatlakepickling.com. Back to our discussion. George, are you scared of dying? Does dying scare you?
No.
Why?
Just doesn't. It isn't anything that, no, doesn't scare me at all. I mean, but I will also tell you on the other side, I will not go to super extreme measures to try to extend my life, though. If it comes along in years, I have some sort of terminal disease, and you could try this cure, try that cure, try this cure, try that, I won't do that. I've watched, and it has to do with life experience. I've watched people who have had, maybe 25, 30, or 40 eye operations to try to to bring your vision back or whatever. And I see parents put their kids through just torture, thinking that the kid only can have a productive life because they, with good vision. Instead they've tortured their poor child and made their life miserable for them. And I think that reflects into how I think about the end of my life, and that I will not go to extremes to prolong my life. I mean, I just don't. I've loved what I've done with my life. I'm not disappointed with, with it. I mean, if I could go back and make some changes, I would absolutely do that. I've done a lot of things. I've never considered myself to be successful. I've done a lot of things. But I've done things that have, what I thought, enriched my life, not necessarily because what society, thought that I should do with my life.
What about you, Chuck? Scared of dying?
Am I? No, I'm not. I think your whole couple episodes so far that I've been able to hear talking about this idea of healthfulness. For me, it's I don't know what the finish line is, but I think more part of it is I got trained as a wellness coach through Mayo Clinic. So we're all attuned to our own wellness. But the idea of having longevity, having a health span that equals our lifespan. I mean, we all think of our lifespan. How far will I go until we've reached that date? Mm-hmm. But I think for me, what I've tried to concentrate on in my second, third, fourth quarter, maybe more my fourth quarter now, is how do I get my health span to equal my lifespan, so I don't have 20 crummy last years, because I saw that with my dad, even more than 20.
Yeah.
No, I'm not really afraid. How about you?
Oh God, I was hoping you wouldn't answer. I was trying to avoid the question. So I always think of death as the roller coaster ride you can't say no to. So there's a sense of curiosity for me of where we go, and we're all spiritual beings in one way or another, whether we know it or not. We all are. We just are. We just aren't in tune to what that spirituality is, whether it's nature, God, whatever religion you happen to be in line with, whatever. We all have some spirituality in some sense. Some are more in tune to it than others. You're very deeply in tune to it. So I have a sense of curiosity, but at the same time, it does scare me. And I'll tell you why it scares me. It's not it's funny, you think, they had a tragic death. Well, I guess they didn't remember it, so they didn't feel it, so it's done and over with. You know what I'm saying? It's the individuals on the journey in life that I leave behind that I know that they'll have to, I know that I'm not all that, but they're loved ones that I'm close to, that I'm concerned about what they'll have to navigate through that part of our existence as human beings that we all have to eventually say goodbye to each other. And so it's that process of knowing that my demise caused pain for others that is upsetting to me. That keeps me up at night.
But as a coach, I listen to what you're saying in the last episode. This has come up more than once, which is a good thing for you to know, that you talk about your family in that way, that you wrap it around the idea that you're going to miss them and what it means that you're not here, not in an egocentric way. But that's to be applauded. That's a way to go about your life, which probably helps you then pour into them, while you're here and doing the decisions you make daily.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does.
For someone to say that they had tragic death because they were driving down the interstate and the semi truck switched lanes and crushed their car. And someone saying that's a tragic death. I look at that and say, the person died and it was quick, it was done, it was gone, it was over with. A person who spends the last 2 years of their life in a nursing home where no one comes to visit them and they're bedridden and someone has to attend to changing their diapers and wiping the drool off the side of that person, I think, had a tragic death.
That's a very good point. It's a very good point, and it's a tough one to wrestle with. Yeah. It is. It's a very good point. So where do we as guys age, and we'll getting ready to wrap this up, but another thing that I learned of, I've been fortunate working on these films about aging and stuff that we've done is relevance. And this, since we're all three guys sitting here, I'll just throw this on the table. And Chuck, you're a perfect conversationalist part of this. The most important thing that I learned for guys, because guys don't age well. We're actually, women age far better than guys when it comes to longevity, and there's a reason for it. Women develop socialized relationships far earlier. They last lifetimes. Guys don't necessarily have those long-term friendships, or they develop them. They reach their end of their career and they retire, and now they're not relevant to what they once were.
It's that identity thing.
Yeah. They may have a series of comorbidities. They've got some financial ruin. They've got kids that have moved out of the house, and so all of a sudden guys find themselves extremely lonely, and that's why the highest rate of suicide, unfortunately, in the world, and at least in America, is that it's that white guy, 65, 70 years and up, who have, feel like there's no way out, and he's trapped, and he's alone. And so I think that that's an important thing for men to really realize how important.
Well, I'm glad you talked about it, because here we are, three guys on this podcast, and I know this. We all know this intellectually because we've probably been experienced with it. My wife can walk into a ladies' room at a restaurant and walk out, come back to the table and say, I just met these women, and we're going to get together next Thursday. Like men, we don't walk into the men's room and come out and say, I met these two guys. And we're just not wired the same, right? And I think the healthfulness of community, especially coming out of COVID and the anxiety and the negativity of what happened and what things that can affect us in our world. But I think relevance, identity, this is a big thing for all of us, men and women. But I think you're right. I think for men, it's a harder place to navigate. And so moving into your second half or your third or last quarter of life can give us hope that we can find, and I heard George say this, there are no small parts. I mean, if I believe there's a God, and I believe God created us all as a diamond. And if you ever have purchased a diamond for somebody, they're filled with flaws. Sometimes they sparkle, sometimes they don't. Sometimes, they're shiny, sometimes they're not. And that's the way people are. And I look at it and I think, when someone is finding joy in creating other works of art for someone else, that doesn't mean you had to make $500 million to be happy. There are no small parts. I don't care if you're a garbage man or you're, a billionaire. And so I've tried to encourage people in that sense as well, that when you make small cost probes in the second half of life, maybe post-retirement, meaning you dip your toe in the water to find, I'd want to go travel to Africa and save the world and dig wells. Well, try one out. Maybe that's not your thing. Maybe coming back and woodworking is your thing. But try these different things while you can, and embrace the idea that they're not all going to be the thing, but you'll find the thing.
One thing I know about you for a fact, though, is that you were a weatherman for a great part of your life.
Right.
You're used to being wrong most of the time.
I got paid no matter what. I wasn't on commission.
Yeah. But there's something to be, for people have this real hard time in our society, and people are really beat down in our society over failure.
Yeah.
And I look at weather guys, and weather women. They get up there, they give you the weather forecast, and it's right from the bottom of their heart. And darn it, the next day they were totally wrong.
Yeah.
And they go back again and do it the next day. And there's a real big lesson to be learned from that for all of us as it relates to how we should look at life. If you make mistakes and and it didn't really harm somebody, or if it did in some way, you go back and apologize, but don't consider it to be the end of the world.
Wow, that is so profound, because what you're saying, I would frame it as grace. We don't live in a world where we offer, somebody, especially in political life or a TV or movie star, someone's done something. We're human beings again. Sometimes we step in puddles and sometimes we step in a pile. Yeah. And, sometimes things go wrong, but we don't want to offer that person grace that maybe they did change. Yeah. And I think the one thing I've learned in my personal life is sometimes I don't offer myself enough grace, that I could be wrong as a TV weather guy. I had to learn that I shouldn't go home and sit in the corner and go, oh my gosh, I've got another day to do tomorrow. Oh. And so I would just encourage everybody, when you do something wrong or you're trying to find your way in this last quarter, offer yourself some grace, a little elbow room to know, forgive yourself for messing up somewhere. And you're right, go back and ask for forgiveness. What a great way to think about it.
Chuck, thank you so much for being here. I think George and I thoroughly enjoyed
thanks for having me.
And talk with you. George, any thoughts on your closing thoughts here, brother?
Well, go out there and live your best life. That's the first thing, and try to do no harm. That's the other thing.
Yeah, good said.
Just so you know, it's going to hit 92 today, George, just so you know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give you a personal forecast.
Expect me to believe?
Never forget, how you live your life today will determine how you age tomorrow.